And next, anterior cutaneous nerve branch of intercostal nerves. So that is T2 to T6. Among this T2 to T6, intercostobrachial nerve was asked one time. That is nothing but T2. T2 is one of the cutaneous nerves which will not only supply the intercostal space, but also it will supply the medial aspect of the arm. So it supplies both pectoral region as well as medial aspect of the arm. Apart from that, we have lateral cutaneous nerve branches which will be there. That is the intercostal nerves T2 to T6. So these are the nerves which will be supplying the pectoral region. Coming to the cutaneous nerve, this is how it looks, how it will be supplying. So that nowadays they have giving pictorial representation in the entrance exams, so you better have to practice both. So whenever they give a pictorial representation and try to ask you questions, you should be very well conversant with supraclavicular nerves. If you try to see, this is the lateral, intermediate and medial, and also the intercostal nerves. If you try to see, there is something in the anterior part. This is the anterior division of the intercostal nerve. This is the lateral division of intercostal nerve. I was telling you about intercostobrachial nerve. Intercostobrachial nerve is T2, that you have to remember, because it will be supplying not only the pectoral region, it will also supply the medial aspect of the arm. So before going to the next topic, I'll give you some time. Please answer this question. You can, anybody who knows the answer can answer. That is question number 1. The bed of mammillary gland is formed by following muscles deeper to the deep pectoral fascia except. Anybody with the answers?
Obliquus externus abdominis.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Option
Any other
2.
options?
Option 4.
Option 4, serratus anterior. Okay, so the option is pectoralis minor. So except is pectoralis minor, because this all the pectoralis major, obliquus externus abdominis and serratus anterior usually form the bed, and these are in the same plane: pectoralis major, obliquus externus abdominis and serratus anterior, whereas pectoralis minor will be there in the deeper plane. So will not be, this will not be considered in the same plane. So only it is given, the key here is deeper to deep pectoral fascia. Immediate deeper structure to deep pectoral fascia are pectoralis major, obliquus externus abdominis and serratus anterior. So all these three are the immediate ones which are there to deep pectoral fascia, except pectoralis minor. If you remember, pectoralis minor will be deeper to pectoralis major, but it will not be deeper to deep pectoral fascia. It will be almost related to pectoralis major, not the deep pectoral fascia. So that is the key. So whenever you read any question, you have to be very careful which is the key point, so such that you don't miss out or you don't get distracted with the answers. So we'll go through the breast region. So breast is a modified secretory sweat gland. So it is called as apocrine gland because it will be, the secretions will be from the apical part. The apical part of the cell get disintegrated to form the milk. So this breast, all as you all know, it will be very well developed in females, but it will be less developed in males. But the key things which are MCQ questions are, one is apocrine gland. They may give you sometimes what type of gland is breast, but is holocrine or it is ecrine or apocrine. So you have to choose apocrine because it is only the apical part of the cell get disintegrated to form the secretions. Okay, another thing about the extension of the breast, the extension of the breast towards the axilla is called as axillary tail of Spence. So this will be in a foramina. So and it will be extending towards the axilla. Sometimes this can be mistaken for axillary group of lymph nodes. So next is about what is the bed structures. If you try to see, 2/3 part is from pectoralis major and inferior 1/3 part is from serratus anterior and obliquus external abdominis muscle. And extent of the breast in the midclavicular line is from 2nd to 6th rib. and horizontally at the level of fourth costal cartilage will be the where you will be finding the nipple. So here you have to be nipple's position will vary from individual to individual in females and as well as males and in children's. So it will never be a fixed thing, only except for the males. Next, deeper relations. So if you try to see the first question which was there, the deeper relations for this first will be the retromammary space. Then you have a fascia. Can you see this fascia? There's a line here. So this fascia which is there is called as the pectoral fascia. And after this, there's a pectoralis major muscle. Then comes below that will be the serratus anterior and external obliquus abdominis muscle. And as I told you, the nipple is the protrusion. Usually it will be at the level of fourth intercostal space, but this position will vary depending on the age of the individual, whether it's a pregnant lady or a non-pregnant lady. And surrounding the nipple, there is something called as Montgomery tubercles. Almost 15 to 20 lactiferous ducts orifices will open near the nipple. So this 15 to 20 lactiferous duct is again a entrance exam question. Next, as I told you, surrounding this nipple, there is something called as modified sebaceous gland. This modified sebaceous gland in a pregnant lady, it is called as Montgomery tubercles. So this will become more prominent in case of a pregnant lady. Okay. So this is how it looks. Breast will be consisting of outer part is the skin. The inner part, if you try to see, there is the fibrofatty tissue, the stroma. The yellow color, what you are seeing is the stroma. And can you see the brown color? That will be the gland. So which type of gland is breast? Anybody? Apocrine. Good. Very nice. Okay. So next, it will be having the gland. The gland will be having the alveoli. Alveoli, many alveoli together will join to form the duct, lactiferous duct. Each lactiferous duct will be having a dilatation called as a sinus. So the number of sinuses will be how many? Okay, are you there? 15 to 20. 15 to 20 in each. Okay, fine. So next, if you take the from each lactiferous duct will be almost arising from the lobule. So there is 15 to 20 lobes in each gland. It may vary from individual to individual, but commonly it is 15 to 20. Next, this breast will be fixed to a retromammary space by a fibrous septa that is called as suspensory ligament of Cooper. So in cases of breast carcinoma, this suspensory ligament of Cooper is the one which is going to be what we call it as become shortened, and it will be giving rise to retraction and immobility to the breast when the cancer cells invade them. Next, coming to the blood supply to the mammary gland, there are different blood supply to the mammary gland. One is the perforating branches from the internal thoracic artery. There is lateral thoracic artery, branches of superior thoracic artery, which is nothing but the acromiothoracic arteries, and intercostal arteries. So if you try to see the perforating internal thoracic artery will supply on medial side, and the lateral thoracic artery will supply on the lateral side. Superior thoracic will supply from the superior aspect, and thoracoacromial also will supply from the superior aspect. And branches of intercostal arteries will be from the intercostal spaces. Among all this, you should remember these are the branches from either from subclavian artery or from the axillary artery. Here, internal thoracic artery is a branch of which artery? Anyone? Anyone? Shresh. Okay. So internal thoracic artery is a branch from subclavian artery, whereas lateral thoracic, superior thoracic, acromiothoracic, these are from the axillary artery. Today we will also be discussing upon this. They are the branches from axillary artery. So there may be sometimes entrance exam questions related to this arteries. So you have to know that these arteries are branches from which artery and how do they supply. Okay, intercostal arteries will be directly arising from thoracic aorta. So that's how there is a difference between different arteries and its origins. Next, coming to the lymphatic drainage of the breast, there are mainly superficial lymphatics and there is deep lymphatics. So everything will drain into axillary group of lymph nodes. So if you try to see here, the nipple, the areola, and the adjacent skin, there is a plexus of lymphatic surrounding this. This plexus which is there surrounding this is called as lymphatic plexus of Sape. Lymphatic plexus of Sape. And this will be draining into different groups of lymph nodes. If you go towards the medial side, there is, you can see some lymph nodes here on the medial side towards the sternum. So these lymph nodes are called as parasternal group of lymph nodes. And if you go to the upper part, there is something called as, we have axillary group of lymph nodes. If you take the axillary group, so that will be having anterior axillary group of lymph nodes. There is posterior axillary group of lymph nodes. There is lateral axillary group of lymph nodes, and there will be something called as the medial part. So this, all this will be going to the central group of lymph nodes. There is a apical group and there is a central group of lymph nodes. If you take the lateral part of the gland, it will drain into pectoral group. Anterior group is also called as pectoral group. Whereas the upper part of the gland will be going towards the apical group of axillary lymph node. Medial part of the breast will be going towards the parasternal group of lymph nodes. And the lower part will go through what we call it as rectus sheath. And they, from there, it will be going to transperitoneally towards the hepatic group. There's a subdiaphragmatic plexus, and hepatic group sometimes will be connected with the peritoneum. So what is the significance here? If any breast carcinoma is there, so it can easily spread through transperitoneally through hepatic group of lymph nodes and to both the ovary. That tumor which spreads through the, from the breast as primary and secondary to the ovary is called which tumor? Anyone? Hello?
Yes, sir. Sir, could you please repeat the question?
Okay. So if the primary tumor is in the breast, so and it spreads transperitoneally to the both the ovaries, then the tumor in the ovary is called what?
Krukenberg's tumor.
Yeah, good. It is a Krukenberg's tumor. So usually it will spread to the both the ovaries because it is but through transperitoneal spread. Say, as it is more interactive, you can participate in the discussion. If you make any mistakes, no problem. We'll try to correct and try to understand the things. So any doubts or any clarifications, you can definitely interact, and you can stop me anywhere if you don't understand any concepts. Okay, fine. So shall we proceed further? Okay. So next, if you try to see here, I was telling you about the groups of axillary group of lymph nodes. Totally, there are 5 axillary group of lymph nodes. Can you tell me which group is not there here? Actually, there is lateral group, there is anterior group, posterior group. There is no medial group of axillary lymph nodes. So there will be never a medial group of axillary lymph node. So here you have to remember, anterior group is also called as pectoral group, whereas posterior group is also called as subscapular group, and there is a lateral group which will come near towards the bicipital group. So there is no medial axillary group of lymph node. All these 3 group of lymph node will go to central. From there, it will go towards the apical region. So that's how the lymphatic drainage will be there. But if you take individually this group of lymph nodes, if you take anterior group, that is the pectoral group, it will be draining the pectoral region and the breast. Majority of the lymphatics will drain into anterior group. If you take the posterior group, it will be draining the area from posterior part of the trunk up till to the iliac crest. Whereas the lateral group of lymph node, it will be draining the entire upper limb. So if you think lateral group is enlarged, the pathology should be there in which part? it should be there in the upper limb. So whenever there is a lateral group of lymph nodes are enlarged, you have to suspect the pathology which will be there in the upper limb, because the lymphatic drainage of the upper limb will be towards the lateral group. Anterior group will receive the lymphatic from the breast. If anterior groups are enlarged, you have to suspect all the time the pathology in the breast. So there will be MCQ questions related to that. So you have to, there are so many permutation and combinations they make in the MCQs to tell you how it is involved. Okay, so if they give a scenario where anterior group is involved, which structure could be affected, like that, then you have to know that it is from the breast region. If you take posterior group, it will be from the trunk and above the iliac crest. If it is lateral group, it is only from the upper limb. So like this, we have the three group of lymph nodes. And apart from this, this three group which are there are in relationship with the vessels. This is also important. If you take anterior group was also called as which group?
Pectoral.
Yeah, good. So it will be all the time lying with lateral thoracic vessels. Especially we have the vein. If you try to see, this is the anterior group, it will be lying with anterior lateral thoracic vessels. So this is very important for surgeons to know that it is relations. Okay, posterior group all the time will be lying with subscapular vessels. So whenever they want to identify posterior group, it is will be with subscapular vessels. Lateral group will be with medial to axillary vein. So if you try to see, this will be the axillary vein. It will be coming with the brachial vein will continue after joining with cephalic vein to form the axillary vein. So that's how it will be formation. And next, it is up till to the after teres major, this will be getting formed. That is axillary vein. And if you take central group, it is at the level of the base of the axilla. Apical group is at the level of the apex of the axilla. Apex of the axilla will be coming where you have the clavicle. So at this level, you have what we call it as the apex. So it will be the apex of the axilla is formed anteriorly by clavicle, posteriorly by the scapula, and medially by the first rib. So apex will be there in the upper part. Okay. So some interesting features. So if there are some questions which are related to what is the reason for powdery orange appearance, it will be because of the lymphatic obstruction. It will be the powdery orange appearance. And usually axillary lymph nodes, if it is stony hard and fixed, it is indicates it will be having carcinoma. And the fixity of the gland and retraction of the skin also indicates it is a carcinoma. I already told there may be spread to the liver, bones and lungs. This is through what we call it as the intercostal group of lymph nodes. This intercostal group of lymph nodes will be going towards the Batson venous flexus. Batson venous flexus are there near the vertebra, so it can easily spread into the bones. And to the lungs, it can spread through parasternal group of lymph nodes, and to the contralateral breast also it can spread through the parasternal group of lymph nodes. Okay, so this finishes off about the breast. Any doubts with the breast? Okay. So
No, sir.
whatever I have given are only the key points. So there is so many questions which are related to each point. So if you know the facts, then it will be easy for you to understand. I can answer any question related to that part of the anatomy. It may be a clinical based scenario or it may be a single point questions. I am taking only single answer questions. Later, as you become well versed with this, we will go for the clinically oriented correlated questions. Okay. Any doubts? Shall we go further? Okay. So next part of this will be about the muscles which are there in the pectoral region. So the muscle which is very important muscle with the pectoral region is the pectoralis major. It has two parts. One is the clavicular part and the sternocostal part. And this will get inserted to the lateral lip of bicipital groove. There are questions related to bicipital groove. How to remember the insertion of muscles on the bicipital groove? Lady between two majors. Lady between two majors means in the groove there is latissimus dorsi. Two majors to the lateral lip is the pectoralis major. Medial lip is the
Pharynx major.
teres major. Good, very nice. So two majors are pectoralis major and then teres major. The L stands for latissimus dorsi. Okay, so that's how we can remember in the bicipital groove. And there's one tendon running in the bicipital groove. That will be which head of biceps? Okay, how many heads biceps has?
Two.
Two heads. So which head will be passing through the groove? Long head of biceps. So so questions are like that, like all are the structures in the bicipital groove except, so they will give short head, then you have to coracobrachialis, like that. So you have to know that it is the long head will pass, but there will be short head will not come from this. Long head will be coming from supraglenoid tubercle, whereas short head will be coming from the coracoid process along with coracobrachialis. Okay, so that's, we'll come to the arm later, but as we had seen the bicipital groove, it was discussed. Okay, so the nerve supply to this will be lateral and medial pectoral nerves, and the action of this is adduction, flexion, and medial rotation. So these are the actions. Okay, now next one more muscle, which is small muscle, it is the subclavius muscle. If you see the diagram, it is from the first rib, and it will be going on the also the costal cartilage, insertion to the inferior surface of the clavicle. The nerve supply to this will be from C5 C6, that is the Erb's point. So Erb's point will give, one is suprascapular nerve, another one will be nerve to subclavius. Basically this is a very small muscle, it depresses the clavicle and fixes the clavicle during the movement of the shoulder. Next muscle which is there in this region below pectoralis major is pectoralis minor. Here you have to very well remember its origin, because it will be arising from third, fourth, and fifth costal cartilages and the ribs. So if you try to see, it is from its costal cartilages and the ribs, it will go and insert to the coracoid process, and it is the one which will be helping for protraction of the scapula, and also it will be supplied by medial pectoral nerve. Majority it is from the medial pectoral nerve. How does it supply? It will be piercing and then supplying the medial pectoral nerve. So that's how there, that's are the and there is a very important relation to pectoralis minor. That is, if you try to see where the pectoralis minor is getting inserted, the axillary artery, what is the extent of axillary artery? It is from first rib to the teres major. So that much is the extent of axillary artery. This artery is divided into three parts by pectoralis minor. So the first part is there medial to pectoralis minor, and second part is there behind pectoralis minor. The third part is there lateral to pectoralis minor. So like this we have three parts, and this pectoralis minor muscle is completely covered by pectoralis major. Until we cut pectoralis major, we will not be able to see pectoralis minor. And what was the origin of pectoralis minor? Anybody? Anyone?
Third, fourth, third.
You want to help? Third, fourth, fifth. That is the costal cartilages and the ribs. All the time there will be confusion with this. So origin you have to remember third, fourth, fifth. Insertion is coracoid process. Okay. So next, can anybody answer this question? Clavipectoral fascia is pierced by following structures except.
Acromiothoracic artery.
Okay, that is not correct. Okay, then anything else? Anybody? Anybody? Any other options? Good attempt, but anybody? Any other options? Okay. Okay, fine. So I think you had made a good attempt, but it is not acromiothoracic, it is superior thoracic artery. So if you try to see, acromiothoracic will pierce. So you have to remember there is a thoracoacromial artery is what we call it as acromiothoracic artery is one and the same. Only the superior thoracic. Superior thoracic is a branch from the first part of axillary artery, and as soon as it comes, it will supply the first and second intercostal spaces and also the breast, but it will not pierce the clavipectoral fascia. How to remember this? Which are the structures piercing? There's only one artery. Whenever they have given two options as artery, you have to think which artery could be, because out of these two, only one artery can pierce. So superior thoracic artery is far away. It is in the uppermost part. So there is very less likely chances that it will be piercing the clavipectoral fascia. What is clavipectoral fascia? So if you try to see, it will be splitting into two parts and enclosing a muscle, that is the subclavius muscle, and it will be enclosing in the upper part and attaching to the clavicle, and it will be enclosing pectoralis minor, and it will come towards the axillary fascia. This fascia, which is extending from clavicle to the axillary fascia, is called as clavipectoral fascia, and enclosing the muscle pectoralis minor as well as subclavius. These are the two muscles which will be enclosed. And the structures which are piercing, you have to remember one artery, one vein, one nerve, and lymphatics. One artery, one vein, one nerve, and lymphatics. So the artery which is there is thoracoacromial artery. The vein which is there is the cephalic vein, and the nerve which is there is the lateral pectoral nerve, and few lymphatic vessels. Here sometimes this question can be twisted. Sometimes they may give two nerves. That time also you should not get confused. So if you remember, there is something called as medial pectoral nerve. So medial pectoral nerve will pierce which muscle? Anybody?
Pectoralis minor.
Yeah, it will pierce the pectoralis minor, and it will directly supply the pectoralis major. Whereas lateral pectoral nerve, even though it is mentioned as lateral pectoral, it will not come on the lateral to the pectoralis minor. It will come medial to pectoralis minor, and it will be piercing the clavipectoral fascia, and then it will supply the pectoralis major. That is the difference. So it is all the time confusing for you. Remember, lateral pectoral nerve pierces the clavipectoral fascia, whereas medial pectoral nerve will not pierce the clavipectoral fascia. So this the three important. Few lymphatics, because you have the axillary group of lymph nodes, it will go to the deeper. That is the you had the central group and the apical group. So those lymphatics, when they want to go from central to apical, they cross and pierce and they will go. Okay, understood? Okay. So next muscle which is there is the serratus anterior. This muscle is also called as boxer's muscle. So this will be having 8 digitations. So this 8 digitations will be from the outer surface of the upper 8 ribs, and the insertion will be towards the medial border of the scapula, that is the on the ventral aspect of the medial border of the scapula. There is something called as dorsal aspect of the medial border, there is ventral aspect. So don't get confused. The anterior part is called as ventral, the behind part of the medial border is called as dorsal. If they ask you the which muscle is inserted to the ventral aspect, it is serratus anterior. Dorsal part of the same medial border, we have the rhomboids major, minor, the levator scapulae muscles, which will be coming over there. So don't get confused with this. Okay, and when you take the insertion, this insertion of this muscle, the first one will be exactly towards the angle. So that is the medial angle. Next, after that, the second and third digitations will be towards the medial border, and in the lower part, almost all the 5 digitation will converge and then gets inserted. Main nerve supply of this muscle is long thoracic nerve. The root value of long thoracic nerve is C5, C6, and C7. So this will be arising from directly from the roots of the brachial plexus, and this muscle will be helping for protraction and the forward movement of the scapula, and the lower 5 digitation of the scapula will be helping for upturning. When this muscle will also help for respiration. So whenever a person gets trained, so he will be breathing fast. So that time, this is the muscle which will be coming into picture. So what will happen if this muscle is damaged? The nerve supply to this muscle is damaged. Anyone?
Winging of scapula.
Yeah,
Winging of
correct. Yeah,
scapula.
that is the winging of the scapula. Very nice. Good. The winging of the scapula. So whenever this nerve gets damaged, it is going to give rise to winging of the scapula. This nerve damage can occur whenever, especially when they're doing the surgeries on the breast, or when they're trying to do the axillary lymph node resections, because this is very in the exactly it is there in the middle. And also whenever you are trying to put the intercostal drainage tubes, we should be very careful about this long thoracic nerve. Okay, so it can get easily injured. So that finishes of the muscles in the pectoral region, so along with its applied aspects. Now we'll go for the axilla and its contents. So axilla is a pyramidal shaped space in the upper part of the medial side of the arm and the lateral thoracic wall. If you try to see the axilla, it has a apex. Here apex will not be sharp, it will be truncated. What is truncated? It will be having borders. So it has anteriorly clavicle, posteriorly scapula, and medially first rib. So this is the apex of the axilla. When you take the base, it is exactly in the armpit. So skin, superficial fascia, and there is something called as axillary fascia. So there will be a suspensory ligament which will be suspending this, and it has walls. It has a 4 walls: anterior wall, there is a posterior wall, a medial wall, and a lateral wall. If you take anterior and posterior wall, it is formed by muscles and also the fascias and the vessels and the nerves which will be supplying them. Next, if you take the medial wall, it will be from the ribs, and you have the serratus anterior. And next we have the posterior wall will be also formed by the scapula, the subscapularis and all, and the lateral wall will be formed by the bicipital groove. So quickly answer this question. Anterior wall of axilla is formed by following structures except.
Serratus anterior muscle.
Yeah, very nice. So it is the exception is serratus anterior muscle. So in the walls they have asked so many times about the muscles which constitute them. So pectoralis major, minor, and clavipectoral fascia forms the anterior wall except serratus anterior. It comes on the which wall? Serratus anterior?
Posterior.
You think it's posterior or medial?
Medial, medial.
Okay, very nice. Okay, so posterior wall of the axilla is formed by following muscles except. So next question is related to that. Okay, any guesses?
C.
Subscapularis.
Okay, actually that is correct, but sometimes the subscapularis also come, but the teres minor sometimes will not be coming in the picture because it is little bit upper part. Okay, so we'll discuss about this triangular gap that faces upwards and medially. So there is the, I told you about already the boundaries. Now try to see this, whatever you told the answer. Can you see this posterior wall here, the cut section? There is a scapula with subscapularis. So obviously subscapularis muscle will come, but exception will be your teres minor, which is little bit an upper part. So we don't consider that. Teres major and latissimus dorsi comes in the lower part. Minor will be coming in the upper part. So teres minor is the exception for this question. So it is subscapularis, teres major, latissimus dorsi are all going to form the posterior wall except teres minor because it comes in the upper part. This confusion will definitely be there because we would have seen long back. So teres minor arises from the upper part of the lateral border of the scapula, whereas major arises from the lower part. Okay, fine. So that is the reason why it doesn't form. Okay. Next, coming to the base, I think we had discussed it is formed by the axillary fascia. Next, coming to the anterior wall. Now you try to see how it looks. This pectoralis major has been cut. You can see the clavipectoral fascia and the pectoralis minor. This option which you are told was correct. Serratus anterior was forming the medial side. Now try to see the posterior wall. Can you see, appreciate teres major and then latissimus dorsi subscapularis? but you cannot see in this picture the teres minor at all. So you have to be very careful when you are answering the question about posterior wall. The exception will be teres minor. Okay, subscapularis definitely forms the posterior wall. Okay, fine. The medial wall is formed by serrator anterior muscle and the upper part of the thoracic wall. And also we have the long thoracic nerve which will be coming along with it. The lateral wall is formed by the upper part of the shaft of the humerus, intertubercular sulcus, and we have the coracobrachialis insertion, short head of biceps. These are the structures which will come towards the lateral wall of the axilla, and lateral wall is the smallest wall among all because there is a bicipital groove, and that groove is a convergence point for almost all the muscles. Okay, so that's about the lateral wall. So this is to show you again how the walls are arranged. So I think you can appreciate the posterior anterior wall and the posterior wall, which we are already discussed, medial and the lateral wall. If you try to see, lateral wall will be the very narrowest point, and you can see the coracobrachialis and the short head of biceps. And contents inside this axilla will be mainly the axillary artery. Related to that, you can see the cords of the brachial plexus. So there will be cords, and later it is going to branch. And apart from this, there will be axillary group of lymph nodes and axillary pad of fat. So these are the structures which is going to form the contents inside the axilla. Okay, so coming to the axillary artery and its branches, there will be axillary veins and its branches, and 5 groups of axillary lymph nodes we had already discussed. And among this, lot of questions which was asked on the brachial plexus. We'll discuss detailedly about brachial plexus in the next coming things. And then we have the long thoracic nerve, intercostobrachial nerve, axillary chain of fence. These are all the contents. So before going to this topic, can anybody answer this question? Following artery curves around the lateral scapular border under teres minor. Which artery encircles the lateral scapular border?
Circumflex scapular artery.
Okay, it's a branch of which part of axillary artery? Okay, it's a branch of third part of axillary artery. It is correct that it is circumflex scapular artery. So if you try to see, this is the first part of axillary artery. Second part comes behind the teres minor, pectoralis minor, sorry, pectoralis minor. Next, the last part comes lateral to the pectoralis minor. So if you try to see this, the first part of axillary artery, only one branch, superior thoracic. Second part of the axillary artery, 2 branches, lateral thoracic and thoracoacromion. Next, third part of axillary artery, 3 branches, anterior circumflex humeral, posterior circumflex humeral, and subscapular. Subscapular artery will give rise to circumflex scapular artery. So circumflex scapular artery arises from subscapular. Subscapular will arise from third part of axillary artery. So we'll quickly see the parts. So the proximal part is first part, behind part is second part, and the third part is distally. Okay, and the extent of this axillary artery is from first rib to the pectoralis teres major. So until to the teres major lower border will be the axillary. After this, if you try to see, we have marked in yellow color, that is the brachial artery. From here onwards, from the teres major onwards, it is called as brachial artery. From the first part, as I told you, it is superior thoracic artery. It supplies almost first and second intercostal spaces. So it comes between where you have the first rib. Immediately after the first rib, you will be getting the first part, so that it will arise directly and splits into 2 and supplies the intercostal spaces. Second part will have 2 branches. So how to remember? So one will be, both will be arising behind the pectoralis minor, but one will come towards the medial side, and it pierces the clavipectoral fascia and divides into 4 branches. That is clavicular branch, and we have the pectoral branch, and then we have the acromion branch and the deltoid branch. So thoracoacromial artery has 4 branches: clavicular, pectoral, acromion, deltoid. Okay, so that comes piercing the clavipectoral fascia. Whereas next one is the lateral thoracic artery. This is comes near the serratus anterior muscle and it supplies the lateral aspect of the breast. Okay, so can anybody tell this answer to this question?
Suprascapular artery.
Which is not a branch of third part. So it is suprascapular artery. Suprascapular artery is a branch of which artery? Okay, because there are questions related like this. So you have to know laterally also. Suprascapular is a branch of thyrocervical trunk. It is comes from subclavian artery. Thyrocervical trunk will come in the first part of the subclavian artery. Okay, fine. So next, third part of the axillary artery, if you remember. So there is subscapular artery, anterior circumflex humeral, posterior circumflex humeral. Here you have to remember subscapular artery is the largest branch of third part of axillary artery. It is going to divide into circumflex scapular artery, which will participate in the anastomosis around the scapula, and we have the thoracodorsal artery. It goes along with the latissimus dorsi muscle. So along accompanied by thoracodorsal nerve. Okay. Next, we have anterior circumflex humeral artery and posterior circumflex humeral artery. This is going to form around the surgical neck of the humerus. Posterior circumflex humeral will be accompanied by which nerve? Anybody? Posterior circumflex humeral will be accompanied by which nerve?
Axillary.
Yeah, axillary nerve. What is the root value of axillary nerve? Okay, C5, C6. Okay, fine. So if you try to see the branches once again, you can see here, this is the superior thoracic artery. You have the thoracoacromial artery, which had 4 branches, lateral thoracic artery. Subscapular is this. You can see that it is dividing into circumflex scapular, and this one will be the thoracodorsal, and then anterior circumflex and posterior circumflex. So this posterior circumflex usually will be accompanied by axillary nerve, which will be having the root value of C5 and C6. And if you try to see here, there is some branches. This is what is the branches from subclavian. Subclavian will give rise to your suprascapular artery. Okay, fine. So there are relations, but here the main important relation which you have to remember is the second part. Second part of the axillary artery will be related to medially to medial cord, laterally will be to the lateral cord, and posteriorly it will be the posterior cord. When you come to the first part, this lateral cord and posterior cord will be lying posteriorly. Medial cord will be lying that also it will be coming posteriorly. So when I come to the third part, all this nerves which are there will have given the branches. So obviously laterally you have musculocutaneous nerve, median nerve, posteriorly you have axillary nerve and radial nerve, and medially will be the axillary vein, and we have the ulnar and medial cutaneous nerve of forearm, and which will be separated by axillary vein. This is how it looks. If you try to see, this is the first part. So if you try to see, all there will be almost posterior and lateral, all the cards. But later when it comes to second part only, we have the medial cord, then we have the posterior cord and the lateral cord. When it comes to the third part, there will be formation of median nerve. Median nerve will come laterally. And if you try to see, medial cutaneous nerve of arm, ulnar nerve will come medially, and radial and axillary nerve comes posteriorly. Okay. And here in axillary vein, you have to remember about its formation. It is a continuation of basalic vein. After it joins with brachial venae comitans. So it will be continuing with brachial vein and basalic vein joined together at the level of teres major to form the axillary vein. So there will be 2 veins from brachial vein. That's only it is called as venae comitans. It's a deep vein, whereas basalic vein is a superficial vein. So this superficial vein will pierce the deep fascia and then it joins with brachial vein. Then only we'll get the axillary vein. They have asked questions related to axillary vein formation. Don't get confused. it will be formed by brachial vein as well as basalic vein at the level of teres major, and this will terminate into subclavian vein at the level of the first tip, and tributaries to this will be cephalic vein and vena competens of the mechanism. Okay, fine. Anybody can anyone wants to answer this question? Following arteries participate in scapular anastomosis except. Anyone? Are you there? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What could be the answer? Any guesses? You can guess anything. Out of 4 options,
D.
anything. Whichever you feel correct. No problem. Don't worry about whether it is exactly correct or not.
D.
D. Yeah, correct. Posterior circumflex humeral is the correct answer. So all other things will actually participate in the scapular anastomosis. So if you try to see, this is the scapular anastomosis. Usually it is with the branches between the subclavian artery branches and the axillary artery branches will be anastomosing around the scapula. So if you take the subclavian artery branches, you have the suprascapular artery. Suprascapular artery is from the thyrocervical trunk, and we also have the deep branch of transverse cervical. This deep branch of transverse cervical is also from the we have the thyrocervical trunk, which is from the subclavian artery. And if you try to see axillary artery branches, there is subscapular artery. That subscapular artery will give rise to circumflex scapular artery. All this will anastomose around the scapula. So only because of this anastomosis and the fascia covering around the scapula, whenever there is any scapular fracture, the shape of that hematoma will be taking like a triangular in shape, because the fascia, it is richly vascular and the fascia will be covering the scapula. It will not allow the hematoma to percolate in between the muscles, because already the fascia will be attached to the rim. So whenever there is any blockade, there will be collateral circulation. So whenever if you think there is an axillary artery block, then there will be the engorgement of veins around the scapula. This is also one of the case-based scenario questions where they had given where could be the level of the block. So if that all, if you're having any engorgement of vessels in the scapular region, then you have to suspect the block would have been in the first or the second part of axillary artery. It will not be in the third part, because third part will be participating with the anastomosis. So don't get confused. It will be block should be between, it should be proximal to the third part. It should not be distal to the third part. If there is distal to the third block, this anastomosis will not become enlarged. Okay, so that's about the anastomosis. Now coming to the axillary sheath. So usually axillary sheath will be surrounding. So which structure will not be surrounded by axillary sheath? Okay, what is axillary sheath? Okay, axillary sheath is nothing but you had the prevertebral fascia in the neck. So whenever that vessels from the neck comes there, so it will be coming along with the brachial plexus, along with the vessels. So this axillary sheath will cover this vessels as well as the nerves, but it will be sparing one of the structures. So which structure do you think it will not be covering, and why? Okay, if you try to see this diagram, can you appreciate it is covering the artery and the nerves, but it will not be covering the
No.
it will not be covering the vein. So if you try to see, the vein needs to expand. So usually this sheath will not cover the vein. Okay, fine. So that's just a simple clue. Okay, next coming to this lymph nodes, you already we had discussed. So lateral group of axillary lymph node drains which area? Okay, which region will be draining? Lymphatics will be draining into lateral group of axillary lymph nodes. Upper limb. And yeah, correct. Anterior group,
That region.
pectoral region. Posterior group,
Posterior
Subscapular.
Okay, subscapular. It drains the trunk and posterior above the iliac crest. Okay, so again the vessels which are related we have already discussed. So shall we go ahead with the brachial plexus? If you are okay with, or should I continue the brachial plexus in the next topic, next class, or shall I go ahead?
Continue, sir.
Shall I continue?
Continue, sir.
Because this is
Yes, sir.
important. Because from here onwards you have to listen to this very carefully. Okay, shall I continue? Yeah, fine.
Yes,
So
sir.
okay, fine. So now cleanly see how is the brachial plexus getting formed. So it is from C5, C6, C7, C8, T1. Okay, so this brachial plexus will be actually whenever you are trying to see, C5 and C6 will join to form the upper trunk, whereas C7 will be for the middle trunk, C8 and T1 will be the lower trunk. So each trunk will divide into divisions. If you try to see, there are anterior divisions, there is posterior division, anterior division, posterior division, anterior division, posterior division. So each trunk is dividing into two divisions, anterior and posterior. So anterior division of upper and anterior division of middle joins together to form the lateral cord. So what do you think the nerves will come in lateral cord? What will be the root value of the nerves which can come in lateral cord?
So could you repeat it?
Okay, so
C5, C6.
okay, so I will repeat once again. So those who are not understood, see, if you try to see, C5 and C6 is going to form upper trunk, and C7 is going to form the middle trunk. So anterior division of upper trunk, anterior division of middle trunk is going to form the lateral cord. So what should be the root values of the nerves which can come as branches of lateral cord?
C5, C6,
C5,
C7.
C6.
Yeah, correct. So you have to remember like that. So then it will be easy for you. Otherwise, it will be by hitting the nerves will be very difficult, especially with their root values. So it will be C5, C6, C7. We'll discuss about the branches in detail. Okay. Next, after this, if you try to see, you can see that there is the lower trunk. The lower trunk will be again divided into anterior and posterior division. Anterior division will be continuing as medial cord. So this medial cord, the root value for this medial cord branches will be
C8 and T1.
C8 and T1. Next comes posterior. All the posterior divisions together, if you try to see this posterior upper trunk as well as middle trunk and then lower trunk together in the middle, if you try to see where the radial nerve they are marked, no, it is going to form the posterior cord. So what can be the root values? It can include
C5 to
C5,
T1, sir, complete.
yeah, C5 to
C5 to
T1.
T1.
Okay, very nice. So this is how we can remember the root value. Okay, so we'll discuss the everything in detail when it comes to the that part. So now axillary abscess, when you want to drain, where you want to put the incision? If you are suspecting axillary abscess,
Something expense. Tail.
tail. Okay, no, if you want to drain axillary abscess, you are seeing a photo of a baby. If you want to drain an axillary abscess, where do you want to take the anatomical landmark? Okay, anyone? Okay, fine. So if you try to see, whenever you are opening the abscess, it should be at the level of the base of the axilla between anterior axillary fold and posterior axillary fold and the middle, because there will, and it should be Hilton's method of drainage. What is Hilton's method of drainage? You should never have put an horizontal incision. Horizontal incision, if you put along the, then it will be cutting which nerve? There is a long thoracic nerve, you may chance to cut. So whenever you put an incision deep, so that should be along the line of the nerve, such that it will not transversely cut the nerve. Instead of that, we will be able to spare the nerve when you go along the axis of the vessel or the nerve. So it will be not allowing it to cut transversely. So it should be Hilton's method, and this is lymphatic. Okay, I think breast carcinoma, it is common. So axillary lymph node resections and all they do. Within a do resections also, we have to be careful about the nurse. Okay, so and axillary vein, subclavian vein, we can access for central venous cannulation and all. That is a different thing. Okay, now coming to the brachial flexus. This is a nice picture to see what is flexus means. Flexus means a network. Just like roads meet, the roots also meet, and later it supplies the upper limb. So here what meets here is the depiction of the nurse, especially you have the C5 to T1, which is going to meet, and then it is going to supply the upper limb. So usually if we have, whenever you take any spinal nurse, there will be a part, you can see that you have a ventral root, there's a dorsal root, and dorsal root will be having a ganglion. It is going to form a trunk, then it is going to split into ventral rami and dorsal rami. Remember one thing, actually the ventral rami of this spinal nurse is going to form the brachial flexus, whereas the dorsal rami will go and it will supply the back muscles. Okay, so that's about the how it forms from C5 to T1. So if you try to see it as C5, C6, C7, T8 and T1. Here they have mentioned as C4 also. Why do you think they have mentioned C4? Anyone? Because there is something called as prefixed and postfixed. So if it is prefixed, means sometimes the brachial flexus will arise from C4. If it is postfixed, means it will arise not only from T1, it will also arise from T2. So that is called as prefixed brachial flexus, means C4 also will be supplying the brachial flexus, and postfixed means you have T2 which will be supplying the brachial flexus. Can anybody answer this question? Following are the branches from the roots of the brachial flexus except. Are you there? Okay.
Yes, sir. Sir, first.
Okay. First one, dorsal scapular, you are thinking? Okay, it's not the right answer. Anybody, anything else? Anybody? Okay, so dorsal scapular long thoracic nerve to scalenus anterior. It is nothing but long thoracic nerve only. So it will be arising from the roots. Whereas thoracodorsal nerve, if you recollect, it will be from which cord? Okay, so I think we'll recapitulate the nerves, then you will understand. So it has something called as supraclavicular part, retroclavicular part, infraclavicular part. Remember that there is a formation of roots and the branches arising from the roots takes place supraclavicularly. Retroclavicularly, you have the formation of the trunk, the cords gets formed here. Infraclavicularly, from the cords, there will be the formation of the branches. So if you try to see now, this is how it looks. Can you see this ventral rami? Ventral rami, you can see some branches from directly from the ventral rami. These are the ones which arises from the roots. This is dorsal scapular nerve, and this is a long thoracic nerve, C5, C6 and C7. Something which is marked in green, you can see the trunks, and then there are nerves which are coming from the trunk. You have to remember about suprascapular nerve and nerve to subclavius from the Erb's point, where C5, C6 meet. And Klumpke's point is where T1 and C8 meet. That is called as Klumpke's point. Next, from this, there's divisions, anterior divisions and posterior divisions. You can see formation of cord. There is lateral cord, there is a posterior cord, there is a medial cord. So we'll discuss about the branches which are arising from those. Before that, you should have understood about the formation. This is again to show you how the trunks form, how the anterior division of superior and middle trunk is going to form lateral cord, which has the root values of C5, C6 and C7, and the inferior and anterior division of the inferior trunk is going to form the medial cord. Posterior division of all the trunks is going to form the posterior cord. So coming to this, so what is the root value of the nerve to serratus anterior? Okay. Anyone? Okay. So it is C5, C6, C7. Okay. So I think I'll show you, that would be better. Okay. So if you try to see, can you, if you here the roots, from the roots, there are so many branches, 1, 2, 3. So from C5, C6, C7, it has been marked in orange, then C6 in blue, and C7 in green. So everything together is giving rise to long thoracic nerve. This is the nerve which arises from the root directly. And if you try to see here, there is one nerve which is going from the orange upwards. So that is the dorsal scapular nerve. So that will be directly arising from the root, and the root value of that dorsal scapular nerve will be
T5.
C5, correct. And you can see some branches which is coming from directly from C5. This will be supplying the scaleni muscle. So there are nerve to scaleni muscles will be going from C5. So this is what these are the three important nerves which are arising from the roots. Understood? One is dorsal scapular nerve, that is from C5, long thoracic nerve C5, C6, C7. From the trunk, where the C5 and C6 are meeting together, you can see that one is in orange color, another one is in blue color. So if you try to see, this point is the meeting point of 6 nerves. One is 2 roots, that is the C5 and C6 meet, and it divides into anterior and posterior division. And there are some nerves emerging. One is from upper part, you can see that orange and blue is going together, and one is from the lower part. The one which is going upper is the suprascapular nerve. The suprascapular nerve will be having both equal contribution from C5 and C6. So the root value of suprascapular nerve will be
T5, C6.
C5 and C6. Okay. Next, the one which is coming in orange color, it is nerve to subclavius. Predominantly, it will be having from C5. So the root value of nerve to subclavius will be from C5. Okay. Next, if you try to see the lateral cord, there are some branches from the lateral cord. So what are the branches from the lateral cord? Easy to remember. LML. LML. So LML stands for lateral pectoral nerve, lateral root of median nerve, musculocutaneous nerve. What LML stands for?
Lateral pectoral.
Lateral pectoral nerve, lateral root of median nerve, musculocutaneous nerve. So if you want to know its root value, it is very easy. So if you try to see the musculocutaneous nerve, you can see that it is contributed by C5, C6 as well as C7. This is musculocutaneous nerve. And median nerve, the contribution will be from C6 and C7. And if you take what we call it as the lateral pectoral nerve, it will be having the contribution from C5 and C6. So C5, C6, C7, if you remember, you can write the root values of all the branches of lateral cord. So the root value of lateral cord, usually it will be from C5, C6 and C7. So whether it may be lateral pectoral nerve, musculocutaneous nerve, or lateral root of median nerve, all this will be having C5, C6 and C7. Understood? Any doubts?
Yes, sir. No, sir. No doubt.
No doubt. Okay, fine. Because if this if you remember, you can write the root values for any nerve, because there is so many permutation and combination they have asked. So if you know how it forms, then you will not be having any doubt in answering any root value of any nerve. So that's how it is. Okay. Any doubt if you have, please let me know such that I can clarify. Okay. So next, coming to the posterior medial cord. So you can remember like C8 and T1 are the one which are contributing for the medial cord. So from the root of the C8 and T1, no nerves arises. From the trunk, only 2 division, anterior division and posterior division, but there is no direct branches from the trunk, and from the divisions also we don't have any branches. But from the cord, if you try to see, that is nothing but the anterior division of inferior trunk is going to form the medial cord. You have so many nerves. How to remember? There are 4 times M and 1 U. The 4 times M are, so medial pectoral nerve, 1 M finished. Second M is for medial root of median nerve, medial cutaneous nerve of arm, medial cutaneous nerve of forearm. U stands for ulnar nerve. So all this will should have what root value?
CAT1.
C8 and T1.
Yeah, simple. So anything in that branches, if they ask, you have to be the root value will be from C8 and T1. Okay, fine. So next we will be trying to see the posterior cord. Posterior cord can have root value from right from C5, C6, C7, C8 and T1. So remember one thing, the thickest branch in this posterior cord branch is the radial nerve. It will have almost all the root values, that is C5, C6, C7, C8 and T1. Rest others, especially the axillary nerve, upper subscapular, lower subscapular and thoracodorsal. So these 3 nerves will come together. That's upper subscapular, lower subscapular and thoracodorsal. Axillary comes separately. So it will go along with radial. So axillary will be having the root value from C5 and C6. C5 and C6. Next, if you try to see upper subscapular and lower subscapular, you can see that it will be having the contributor from again C5 and C6, both upper subscapular as well as lower subscapular. But if you try to see the thoracodorsal, it will be having the contribution from C6, C7 and also the C8. So that will be the contribution for thoracodorsal nerve, C6, C7, C8. So, and this thoracodorsal will come in between upper subscapular and lower subscapular. How to remember this branches of posterior cord? So the branches of posterior cord you can remember either by using a mnemonic that is called a star. S stands for subscapular. Subscapular can be either upper subscapular or lower subscapular. What was the root value of upper subscapular and lower subscapular?
C5 and C6.
Very good. Okay, next you can star T, thoracodorsal. What is the root value of thoracodorsal?
C6, 7, 8.
C6, C7, C8. Okay, fine. So next coming to star A for axillary. What is the root value of axillary?
C5, C6.
C5, C6. So upper subscapular, lower subscapular axillary will have the root value C5, C6. Okay. If you take nerve to latissimus dorsi or thoracodorsal, C6, C7, C8. Radial nerve will have right from C5 to T1. So that's how we can remember the root values. If you take medial cord, C8 and T1. If you take lateral cord, C5, C6, C7. Understood? Okay. Shall we go further? Okay. So can you answer this question? As you have now understood, following is a branch from upper trunk of the brachial plexus. Which one is the branch from upper trunk of brachial plexus? Upper trunk is formed by C5 and C6.
Suprascapular nerve.
Yeah, suprascapular. That is from the Urs point. Whereas dorsal scapular was from root. Upper subscapular, lower subscapular was from cord. Whereas suprascapular is from the trunk. What will be the root value of suprascapular now?
C5, C6.
C5, C6. Very good. That's all. Okay, fine. So if you try to see, this point is called as Urs point, where there is meeting of 6 nerves, and suprascapular will be from C5, C6. Nerve to subclavius will be actually going from the C5 division. That's all. So, and this gets injured, we'll discuss about the deformity later. Okay. Next, branches from the roots. If you try to see, C5 root will be dorsal scapular nerve. Branches to scalenus also will be from C5. Long thoracic nerve will have C5, C6 and C7. And there is something called as phrenic nerve. This phrenic nerve will arise from actually C4 and C5. So this phrenic nerve we'll discuss when it comes to head and neck region. There is something called as accessory phrenic nerve and also the phrenic nerve. But this we'll discuss when it comes to cervical plexus in the head and neck region part. Okay. At this point of juncture, remember sometimes whenever accessory phrenic nerve is there, it will receive its root value from C4 and C5. Okay. This is okay. Can you quickly answer this question?
C. Ulnar.
Okay. Following are the branches of lateral cord of the brachial servus except. Good. Ulnar is a branch of which nerve?
Median cord.
Medial cord.
Medial cord. Good. So lateral pectoral, lateral root of median, musculocutaneous are from the lateral cord. What should be the root value?
C5, C6, C7.
Ah, very nice. So it is C5, C6, C7. Okay. Lateral pectoral nerve will supply both. You have the pectoralis major, especially, and minor. And next, you have lateral root of median nerve. It is going to form the median nerve. Median nerve, as you know, it will supply the forearm muscles and flexor compartment of forearm, except two muscles, that is flexor carpi ulnaris and medial two digitations of flexor digitorum profundus, which will not be supplied by median nerve, and it will supply the thenar muscles and first two lumbricals. That is the area of supply of median nerve. Musculocutaneous nerve will supply basically anterior compartment of arm. It is called as musculocutaneous because it is going to form the lateral cutaneous nerve of forearm. C5, C6, C7. Okay. Next. Can anybody answer this question? Following are the branches of medial cord of brachial plexus except. Yeah, very nice. It is musculocutaneous. What is the root value of from the medial cord? Any branches which comes from medial? C8 and T1. Good. Okay. So usually all this will be having C8 and T1. But here you have to remember one more thing. Whenever it comes to ulnar, sometimes there will be extra branch which will be coming to ulnar, that is called as C7. So whenever in some books they would have mentioned that ulnar nerve is having C7, C8 and T1 because it will receive sometimes few fibers from C7. Okay. So medial pectoral nerve will be actually supplying the pectoralis major and the minor and piercing the pectoralis minor. Next, we have the median root of median nerve. As I told you, it will supply the flexor compartment of forearm, except which two muscles? Except which two muscles which will not be supplied in the forearm? Flexor carpi ulnaris and medial two digitations of flexor digitorum profundus. And thenar muscles, there are three muscles. That is, you have the opponens pollicis, the flexor pollicis, and also the abductor pollicis. And the first two lumbricals will be supplied by median nerve. Okay, fine. So ulnar nerve will supply almost all the intrinsic muscles of the hand except thenar muscles and first two lumbricals, and it will supply flexor carpi ulnaris and medial two digitations of flexor digitorum profundus. Medial cutaneous nerve of arm will be between brachial artery and the basalic vein, and it is very small in size, and it will be supplying the medial aspect of the arm. Medial cutaneous nerve of forearm, it will be continuing downwards, and it will be accompanied by a vessel, that is the superior collateral arteries, inferior collateral artery, and it will be supplying the medial aspect. Can somebody quickly answer this question? Following are the branches of posterior cord of brachial plexus except. What is the answer?
Dorsal scapular.
Scapular arch.
Very nice, very nice. So thoracodorsal and axillary are from the posterior cord. Dorsal scapular is from?
C5 root.
Yeah, it is from the directly from the root. Okay. So what should be the root value of thoracodorsal?
C6, C7, C8.
Okay. So if you try to see, can you see this? It is C6, C7 and C8. Upper subscapular, lower subscapular, axillary, C5, C6. Radial nerve will be having almost all the root values, C5, C6, C7, C8. One is radial nerve has all the root values. Another nerve which is having all the root values is median nerve. So these are the two nerves which will have all the root values because it is formed by two cords. Which one? A median nerve. Medial cord as well as lateral root of median nerve, medial root of median nerve. Okay, fine. So here upper subscapular and lower subscapular, this will both of them will supply subscapularis, whereas upper subscapularis nerve will also supply the teres minor. Teres major, sorry, teres major. And next you have the thoracodorsal, it will supply the latissimus dorsi. Axillary nerve will supply not only the deltoid, it will also have supply the minor branches to what we call we have the teres minor part. So this axillary nerve will have two division. One is anterior division, another one is posterior division. And this axillary nerve will also have a lower lateral cutaneous nerve of arm, which is going to supply the deltoid region. And it follows a law that is called as Hilton's law. Hilton's law states that the nerve which supplies the joint will also supply the adjacent muscles and also the adjacent skin. So the one nerve which follows the Hilton's law in this is here axillary nerve. So this you have to remember. There is lot of questions which was asked on axillary nerve. So you have to know about axillary nerve. This axillary nerve will accompany which branch of the axillary artery? Anyone?
First.
You think it is first? Okay, it is posterior circumflex humeral artery. It's a branch of third part of axillary artery. This you have to remember because this was also one time asked. They have asked it will be accompanied by which artery, or it will go with along with which branch of the artery, like that. So it is posterior circumflex humeral, and this nerve is also called as circumflex nerve. So another name for axillary nerve is circumflex nerve. So don't get confused if at all if they put in your question as circumflex nerve. So circumflex nerve is nothing but axillary nerve. Okay, fine. So radial nerve will be going along with profunda brachii artery, which is a branch of brachial artery. It is the largest branch of brachial artery and it will go to the spiral groove. It has branches above the spiral groove. It has the branches in the spiral groove, below the spiral groove. We'll discuss when it comes to arm in the next topic. Okay. So, and there is a relationship for this infraclavicular part of this brachial plexus. The main relation which is going to get formed is axillary artery. If you try to see in front of axillary artery and lateral to this axillary artery, will have the median nerve formation. Medially, you have the medial cord branches, that is medial cutaneous nerve of arm, medial cutaneous nerve of forearm. Still more medially, you have the axillary vein. Next, if you take the posterior cord branches, all the posterior cord branches will be there posterior to the axillary artery, especially upper subscapular, lower subscapular, and then you have the thoracodorsal will come in the middle, and you have the axillary and the radial. This two, how to differentiate? It will be axillary will be going with a vessel, that is posterior circumflex humeral artery, whereas radial will be going with a vessel, that is the profunda brachii artery. Axillary nerve will go to quadrangular space, whereas radial nerve will go to upper triangular space. What is the demarcation? This teres major. If you try to see teres major, a radial nerve will be going below the teres major accompanied by a vessel, that is the profunda brachii. Above the teres major, if you try to see, it is the quadrangular space will be present. There will be posterior circumflex humeral artery. Along with that, it will be going. That's how it looks in a schematic diagram. As I told you, there is some variation. If at all, if you get any extra branch from C4, it is called as prefixed variety of brachial plexus. If you are getting any T2 extra branch, it is called as postfixed variety of brachial plexus. And this brachial plexus can be injured. So there is motor changes like muscle palsy, and there will also be sensory changes. In order to know which part is getting involved, you have to know which muscles they supply. So it can be in the skin in the upper part or the lower part. So basically this occurs because of the movement of the neck, because you know that there is all these roots will be arising from the cervical region. So either it may be an extension or lateral flexion, excessive lateral flexion or excessive forward flexion, that can give rise to stretching on this flexus and giving rise to upper part of the flexus injury. And sometimes there may be lower part of the flexus also can get injured if there is any stretch in the lower part. So in among this, you have to remember about Erb's palsy. This cause for this is on the fall on the shoulder directly with the laterally flexed head. So here, if you think a person is directly falling from a building and is landing on his head, so the head gets twisted towards one side and he will have injury towards that region. So especially during this injury, it is the upper part of the trunk which gets involved. So Erb's point is where the C5 and C6 meet. It is going to injure that point. What were the nerves which were arising from C5 and C6? Everybody there?
Yes.
Hello?
It's late.
Yeah, are you tired? Are you getting saturated? Okay.
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Yeah,
Lateral corner.
yeah, I can understand. After 1 hour, your mind will be going somewhere else. Okay, no, it is quite understood. So okay, fine. So to make you active, we will ask sometimes questions. Don't worry. So I think we'll be winding up soon. So it is suprascapular nerve and nerve to subclavius, musculocutaneous nerve. Basically, suprascapular and nerve to subclavius arise from C5 and C6. And we have other nerves also arises from the same point which has the root valleys, like musculocutaneous, which had C5, C6 and C7. Axillary nerve had C5 and C6, upper subscapular and lower subscapular. So all the muscles which will be supplied by this will be paralyzed. So because of this, we have the arm adducted, medially rotated, and the forearm is extended, and there is pronation, and there will be no supination and flexion of the wrist. So this type of deformity is called as policeman tip deformity or Potter's tip deformity. Usually this takes place when they are putting any traction on the head, especially in forceps deliveries. So whenever you do any forceps delivery, it can give rise to policeman tip's hand. If you take an adult individual, it can be associated with Horner syndrome sometimes. So if it is associated with Horner syndrome, it is by the stellate ganglion which can be associated with. So next time when you're taking thorax, I'll take you about Horner syndrome. Next, lower trunk, if it is getting injured, basically intrinsic muscles of the hand and ulnar flexors of the wrist gets injured, and basic deformity which you will get is the claw hand. Ulnar nerve gets injured because it is C8 and T1 gets injured, and you know that ulnar nerve will arise from C8 and T1. And if the injury is to the nerve to serratus anterior, we have the winging of the scapula, where the medial border of the scapula gets elevated. So usually this takes place in those people who lift heavy weights on their shoulders. So this is how a winging of scapula appears. And we have nerve blocks above and below nerve blocks which can be there. So that's all for today. So thank you for your patience listening. But any doubts is there, I'll be free to answer now. So you can ask me any doubt related to whatever topics today we have taken.
Sir, sometimes the brachial plexus starts from C4. What is that called?
Prefixed.
Okay, sir.
And if it is from the lower part, it is postfixed. But it's T2. Okay, anybody, any other doubts, please feel to ask. And today itself, if you find time, study it off about brachial plexus. Many questions are related to brachial plexus. So I think once I finish upper limb, I'll go for case-based scenarios. You need to relate this basic thing for the case-based scenarios, because nowadays the entrance exam questions are coming as clinical cases where you need to apply. Without knowing the basics, it is very difficult to understand the clinical cases. So I thought first I will take the basics, such that we'll brush up the basics, and then we'll go for the clinical case scenario in the end. Means the last class will be about clinical based scenarios, where I'll give you the clinical based pictures and photographs where you need to apply whatever you have learned now. So if you have any doubts, please let me know. Sit and read. So any doubts you can feel free to ask in the WhatsApp group. I'll try to answer. If I am not active in that same day, I'll answer in the next day. Sure, I will try to answer for your queries. And any other, if you want to write me a mail, it is drchandan24@gmail.com is my email ID. You can write me mail also. That's not an issue. If you're finding any difficulty in solving any clinical based scenarios, you can post me the questions through mail, so such that I can answer your queries through the mail also. Okay. Anybody any doubts or anything?
No
Or shall we
doubts,
wind
sir.
up? Okay, shall we wind it up?
Thank you, sir. Yes,
Very
sir.
thank you for your patience listening. Did you feel bored for long time, or you want me to take only 1 hour? How it is?
No, sir. No, sir. It's okay.
No, sir. No.
If you if you are feeling bored, I'll reduce my hours, because I know that your concentration abilities will be 40 minutes maximum, because anybody's concentration ability is only 40 minutes. So if you are feeling bored, or if you're feeling it tiresome, I'll reduce it. That's not an issue. Okay, then we'll take a
Thank you,
off.
sir.
Thank you very much. Okay, bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Thank you.
Correct.